The February 25th, 2021 special meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Alcoffer.
Here.
Mr. Alcoffer is present. Mr. Ansello.
Here.
Mr. Ansello is present. Ms. Barnhart.
Here.
Ms. Barnhart is present. Mr. Baroth.
Here.
Mr. Baroth is present. Mr. Baines.
Here.
Mr. Baines is present. Ms. Boyce. Mr. Brew.
Here.
Mr. Brew is present. President Carbone.
Here.
President Carbone is present. Mr. Colby.
Here.
Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Delahanty.
Here.
Mr. Delahanty is present. Mrs. DeFlorio.
Here.
Mrs. DeFlorio is present. Mr. Dondorfer.
Here.
Mr. Dondorfer is present. Mr. Felder.
Here.
Mr. Felder is present. Mr. Flagler Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Flagler Mitchell is present. Ms. Hassman.
Here.
Ms. Hassman is present. Mr. Hebert.
Here.
Mr. Hebert is present. Mr. Keofat-Lassie.
Here.
Mr. Keofat-Lassie is present. Ms. Lamar.
Here.
Ms. Lamar is present. Mr. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Lee is present. Mr. Mafucci.
Here.
Mr. Mafucci is present. Mr. Marionetti.
Here.
Mr. Marionetti is present. Mr. Morelli.
Here.
Mr. Morelli is present. Ms. Roman.
Here.
Ms. Roman is present. Ms. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Smith is present. Ms. Taylor. Ms. Taylor is excused. Mr. Turp.
Here.
Mr. Turp is present. Mr. Wilcox.
Here.
Mr. Wilcox is present. Mr. Wilt.
Here.
Mr. Wilt is present. Mr. Udelson.
Here.
Mr. Udelson is present.
Thank you. We will need to suspend the rules of the legislature for the purpose of prohibiting public in-person attendance in accordance with Executive Order 202.1, which was extended through March 16th by Executive Order 202.94. You have a motion before you, which is moved by Legislator Brew and seconded by Legislator DeFlorio. This is a non-debatable motion, and all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Please join me in a moment of silent prayer. Please stand as Legislator Calvin Lee Jr. will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
under
God,
God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice
for all.
for all.
I call the special meeting of the legislature pursuant to the authority vested in me as President of the Monroe County Legislature by Section C2-9C1 of the County Charter and Section 545-5 of the Rules of the Legislature of the County of Monroe. This meeting has been closed to the public, and all legislators are participating via teleconference in accordance with Executive Order 202.1 and 202.94. In keeping with the legislature's tradition of openness, the meeting is being live streamed on YouTube through the legislature's official channel. Everyone participating via video or teleconference will please mute their devices except to obtain the floor or cast a vote. If seeking to obtain the floor, please simply state your name and wait for me to call on you before proceeding with your questions or statement. The clerk will read the full title of each resolution and referral to avoid any confusion as to which item is before the legislature. All votes will be held via voice vote unless a roll call is requested. Tonight we'll consider one standalone resolution to set a new time for the canceled hearing on the forensic intervention team. Following that, we'll consider a motion to convene a committee of the whole. In convening the committee of the whole, we'll also discharge those items currently referred to committee and commit them to the committee of the whole. All legislators will be members of the committee of the whole, and able to participate in debate and vote on items regardless of their respective committee assignments or which committees the referral was initially assigned. The Committee of the Whole will be governed by the same rules of the Legislature that govern committee meetings, and the votes taken are equivalent to those taken in committee. Meaning items passed by the Committee of the Whole will be considered for final approval or appropriate action at the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Legislature. We will now hold the public forum. Mr. Clerk.
No one is registered to address the legislature, nor were any written comments submitted.
We will now proceed with the consideration of motions, resolutions, and notices. Will the clerk read the next item on the agenda, please?
Item number 1, referral 21-0035, amending resolution number 60 of 2021, entitled calling legislative hearing on deficiencies in utilization and deployment of Monroe County Forensic Intervention Team to establish new hearing date and time.
Move it, Mr. President.
Moved by Legislator Brew, seconded by Legislator DeFlorio. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Brew.
Aye.
Mr. Brew votes yes. Mr. Felder.
Yes.
Mr. Felder votes yes. Mr. Flagler-Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Flagler-Mitchell votes yes. Mr. Alcoffer.
Yes.
Mr. Alcoffer votes yes. Mr. Ansello.
Yes.
Mr. Ansello votes yes. Ms. Barnhart.
Yes.
Ms. Barnhart votes yes. Mr. Baroff.
Yes.
Mr. Baroff votes yes. Mr. Baines.
No.
Mr. Baines votes no. Ms. Boyce. Mr. Colby.
Yes.
Mr. Colby votes yes. Mr. Delahanty.
Yes.
Mr. Delahanty votes yes. Ms. DeFlorio.
Yes.
Mrs. DeFlorio votes yes. Mr. Dondorfer.
Yes.
Mr. Dondorfer votes yes. Ms. Hassman.
No.
Ms. Hassman votes no. Mr. Hebert.
Yes.
Mr. Hebert votes yes. Mr. Keofelasi.
Yes.
Mr. Keofelasi votes yes. Ms. Lamar.
Yes.
Ms. Lamar votes yes. Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Lee votes yes. Mr. Mafucci.
No.
Mr. Mafucci votes no. Mr. Marianetti.
Yes.
Mr. Marianetti votes yes. Mr. Morelli.
No.
Mr. Morelli votes no. Ms. Roman.
No.
Ms. Roman votes no. Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Smith votes yes. Ms. Taylor.
6:30 maybe.
Taylor's excused. Mr. Turp.
Yes.
Mr. Turp votes yes. Mr. Wilcox. Mr.
No.
Wilcox? Oh, Mr. Wilcox votes no. Mr. Wilt?
Yes.
Mr. Wilt votes yes. Mr. Udelson?
No.
Mr. Udelson votes no. President Carbone?
Yes.
President Carbone votes yes. 20-7, the motion is carries.
Next item.
Item number 2, motion to discharge, convene, and commit, providing that file numbers 21-0041, 21-0042, and 21-0045 through 21-0074 be discharged from the agenda, charter, public safety, plan, economic development, transportation, recreation, education, intergovernmental relations, human services, environment and public works, and ways and means committees, providing that the legislature convene a committee of the whole, providing that files number 21-0041, 21-0042, and 21-0045 through 21-0074 be committed to the committee of the whole.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Brew, seconded by Legislator DeFlorio. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. At this time, we'll recess the February 25th, 2021 special meeting of the Monroe County Legislature, and we'll convene the Committee of the Whole. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Alcoffer.
Here.
Mr. Alcoffer is present. Mr. Ansello.
Here.
Mr. Ansello is present. Ms. Barnhart.
Here.
Ms. Barnhart is present. Mr. Baroff.
Here.
Mr. Baroff is present. Mr. Baines.
Here.
Mr. Baines is present. Ms. Boyce. Mr. Brew.
Here.
Mr. Brew is present. President Carbone.
Here.
President Carbone is present. Mr. Colby.
Here.
Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Delahanty.
Here.
Mr. Delahanty is present. Mrs. DeFlorio.
Here.
Mr. DeFlorio is present. Mr. Dondorfer.
Here.
Mr. Dondorfer is present. Mr. Felder.
Here.
Mr. Felder is present. Mr. Flagler Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Flagler Mitchell is present. Ms. Hassman.
Here.
Ms. Hassman is present. Mr. Hebert.
Here.
Mr. Hebert is present. Mr. Teofilasi.
Here.
Mr. Teofilasi is present. Ms. Lamar.
Here.
Ms. Lamar is present. Mr. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Lee is present. Mr. Mafucci.
Here.
Mr. Mafucci is present. Mr. Marinetti.
Here.
Mr. Marinetti is present. Mr. Morelli.
Here.
Mr. Morelli is present. Ms. Roman.
Here.
Ms. Roman is present. Ms. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Smith is present. Ms. Taylor. Ms. Taylor is excused. Mr. Turp.
Here.
Mr. Turp is present. Mr. Wilcox.
Here.
Mr. Wilcox is present. Mr. Wilt.
Here.
Mr. Wilt is present. Mr. Udelson.
Here.
Mr. Udelson is present.
We'll now hold the public forum. Mr. Clerk?
No one is registered for the public forum, nor were any written comments submitted in advance of the meeting.
We'll now proceed with new business. Will the clerk read the next item on the agenda?
I'm sorry. Item number 1, referral 21-0041, amending the 2021 Monroe County budget to eliminate county food service fees during the COVID-19 state of emergency.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Before discussion begins, I'd like to say a few words about this legislation. Over the past year, all of our lives have been drastically impacted by COVID-19. The way we live, work, and interact with others has changed in a way that I don't think any of us could have ever predicted. While the effects of COVID-19 are far-reaching in our daily lives, few industries have been burdened by the heavy-handed restrictions like the food service industry. Though many of these restrictions have been made in the name of public health, data has shown that minimal spread can be directly attributed to the food service industry when proper safety measures are observed. While we are grateful restrictions on restaurants and other food service businesses are slowly beginning to be reconsidered and lifted, this does not change the fact that so many local businesses have been negatively impacted over the past several months. What's worse is that while the government forced these businesses to remain closed and to partially or fully shut down operations, businesses have still been required to pay the same pre-pandemic licenses, fees, and taxes. In other words, while the government demands revenue, it is at the same time limiting the ability of the private entities the revenue to pay. Last month, I stood alongside just a few of the restaurant and catering business owners who have seen the devastating impact that this pandemic has had on our local economy. I am proud to sponsor this legislation that will provide support for small businesses within the food service industry. This legislation eliminates the food service establishment fees charged through the county. In addition, it will authorize the direct reimbursement of any 2021 food service establishment fees paid to the Monroe County prior to the adoption of this legislation. The waiving and reimbursement of these fees through 2 legislative actions will help ease the financial burden on these already overburdened small businesses. Further, this legislation will guarantee that going forward, these businesses, and by extension their employees, will see guaranteed fiscal relief from their government. I'm aware that County Executive Bello announced earlier this month, after announcing and submitting this legislation, that he would be eliminating these fees for the remainder of 2021. While I am glad to see that the County Executive agrees that this action must be taken, it is disappointing but not surprising that he chose to promote this as his own original idea following my announcement in January. Further, it is important to note that eliminating these fees requires amending the 2021 county budget, something that only can be done through an act of the legislature. Nowhere in the county charter is the county executive afforded that power. I am encouraging all of my colleagues to support this legislation to ensure that local businesses receive the support and relief they deserve, and that this issue is addressed legitimately. Thank you very much. And is there any further discussion, please?
Legislator Barnhart?
Legislator Barnhart, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the administration, particularly County Executive Bello and Anna List, for their work on providing relief to restaurants over the last year. We know they are struggling and many are just not going to survive this pandemic. To date, the county administration has implemented the Fast Forward Grant Program, which provided a lifeline to many restaurants. The county executive authorized an executive order to cap the predatory fees charged by food delivery apps. And he also did agree to waive these permit fees, whether there was legislation or not. I have heard from countless restaurants who say the county gave them a way to hang on. This work that we are doing is very, very important to our small businesses. And I think it's great that both sides of the aisle see the need for action on this. This legislation is fair. However, we got to the point on the fee waivers, and I hope that we can work together to provide relief in the coming months to restaurants and all small businesses because they're going to need it. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item. Okay,
We actually passed over the approval of the minutes, so we're just gonna back up, then we'll come back to new business.
the next item, the approval of the minutes. You have the minutes from the January 26, 2021 meeting of the Committee of the Whole before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. Now we'll go to referral 2.
Item number 2, referral 21-0042, Dignified Indigent Burial Act.
Move it, Mr. President.
Is he in there with you?
Second it.
Legislator Felder,
Second.
seconded by
Second.
Legislator Flagler Mitchell
And Lamar.
and Legislator Lamar. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President. We
Yes,
know
Legislator Felder, you have the floor.
up until sometime during the late, about 2006, 2007, the Monroe County paid, I believe, $18.50 to help indigent persons who needed to bury their loved ones. And that was cut down to $12.50. That's caused a lot of hardship in the community over those last decade or so. So this legislation is an attempt to try and rectify that. Still think it may need to go a little higher than this, but I think this is a start. At least it gets us back to a point where we were before, and also a little bit higher. It almost doubles what we are paying currently. And I think it's important that we do this so that we can so people are not forced into cremation simply for financial reasons. You know, a lot of people don't believe in cremation for religious reasons, believe in the resurrection of the body and some other things, and don't want to have to do that. But because of finances, they have no choice. The funeral directors can work with them on costs related to the funeral, but for the burial plots and the graves, that money must be paid up front, and so there's no wiggle room. And so this attempts to address that and begin to rectify that problem as we go into the future. And then we'll look at working with the administration and to try and get this, try to find the right amount for this as we move into the future.
Thank you, Legislator Felder. Any further discussion on this?
Mr. President. Flagler Mitchell.
Legislator Flagler Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I echo the same thing that Legislator Felder speaks, and I am also excited that we're able to do something for communities that have a lot of folks who is in poverty. Poverty is a huge thing, and in some of our districts, we see people who die before their time. Families who don't have life insurance is always stuck with the burden of either making a decision to cremate or to try to find the money if they can to bury their loved ones. I think the county should go further, but this is a great start right here, getting it back to where it was some years ago and ensuring that folks in our communities, our more stressed communities, are having the real conversation to be able to now bury loved ones versus the alternative, and that's cremating. Once again, I thank you all. I ask the legislature to just follow us with this vote, and looking forward to working along with everybody to make sure that we can support those in communities of color and poor districts to ensure that they get equity from the county as well. So I thank you, Mr. President, and I thank everybody who will be voting yes on this legislation.
Thank you.
Legislator Lamar.
Legislator Lamar, you have the floor.
As an advocate of families, victims of violence and families of homicide victims, I see firsthand how families not being able to properly bury their loved ones, the burden that it causes on those families. I even have spoken to some funeral home directors who still have ashes sitting at the funeral home because the families weren't able to pay the remaining balance on some of the services. So I see how this legislation could really have a huge impact on not just families of homicide victims, but the impoverished community as a whole. I think that this is a great step in the right direction. And in addition to the extra funding, I would like to see the language changed on the regulations for who qualifies and who doesn't qualify for this. Some of the language intentionally doesn't allow certain people to even have access to this burial fund. So I would like to see this legislation not just increase in the money, but the language changed on it as well. Thank you, Legislator Felder and Flagler Mitchell for putting this forward, and I look forward to supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Legislator Barroth.
Legislator Barra.
Thank you. As someone who's been in the legislature for a little while, I have to say I'm very happy to see this come forth and that the authors feel confident the administration will support this and not veto it or anything like that. This is an important piece of legislation. I think we should mention the fact that the past champion of this issue by Sister Grace from the House of Mercy was a large, part of championing this through the early 2010s. And I'm just very pleased that we're actually moving forward with this, and I'm excited to vote in favor of it. And to the degree that, and I'll just indicate the degree that Legislator Lamar has issues with who can access or not, I hope that we can examine this as well moving forward, because I think it should be broadly accessible. But in general, yes, this is a step in the right direction, and hopefully we'll have additional steps moving forward. And I anticipate that everyone on this legislative body will vote in favor of this referral. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Legislator Hebert.
Legislator Hebert.
A quick question through you, Mr. President, to the administration. In the next to last paragraph, the authors have indicated where the funding would come from and if it's adequate, no new net funding is available. I'd just like you to confirm that.
Mr. President, through you, if you can give us one moment, please. Through you, Mr. President, yes, we can confirm funding is available and there will be no new net county funding required.
Thank you. I yield the floor, Mr. President.
Any further? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Number 3.
Item number 3, referral 21-0045, designation of official newspapers. She's not here.
She's not here.
Move it,
Mr. President.
Second it.
Who was that? Legislator Delahanty?
Yep.
Yes.
By Legislator Delahanty, seconded by Legislator Flagler Mitchell. Is there any discussion?
Yes,
Legislator
Mr. President.
Legislator Baroff, this is your baby.
Actually,
You
it
go
is. Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say I'm pleased that we're still moving forward, having the Minority Report as being one of the papers of record. This was a long, as everyone in the legislature know, drawn-out conversation that's gone on for like almost 10 years. And I'm pleased that we're able to continue this from last year into this year. And it's just something that I think is the right thing to do to spread the word about what's going on about county contracts and such as widely as possible when it's appropriate for, spending the additional funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. President?
Yes, Legislator Flagler Mitchell.
Yeah, I would like to ask if they will consider the Southwest Tribune to be also one of the newspapers. Do you?
Through the chair, this is Laura Smith, Chief Deputy County Attorney. We reviewed the Southwest Tribune for compliance with the requirements of having to be an official newspaper last year. I apologize, I don't have why it did not meet the definition in front of me today. I'm happy to provide that as a follow-up, but the Southwest Tribune did not meet the qualifications necessary to designate it as an official newspaper.
Okay, thank you. And just through you to the administration, can you check with them again to make sure that everything that they're not still a newspaper, a qualified newspaper? Through you to the administration, can y'all reach out to them?
Yes, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Legislator Hebert.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, 2 quick questions. And if you don't have it tonight, writing later is fine. How much was spent for each of these official newspapers in 2020? And additionally, what is the paid circulation for each of these each of these publications?
Through the chair, we do have that information available. The Daily Record, the readership is 4,882 readers. And the amount that we spent on the Daily Record is quite high this year because we had to publish every emergency order. That is $65,119.09. The RBJ, the Rochester Business Journal, has a readership of 22,182 for print distribution. The amount of money spent on the RBJ was $12,685.70. The Minority Reporter has a distribution of approximately 5,000 individuals. The amount spent on the Minority Reporter is lower due to the fact we did not proceed with the in-rem publication notice, as well as we have not yet received invoices from them from November and December of 2020. And the total amount on the Minority Reporter was $1,410.
Thank you.
Very good. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Number 4.
Item number 4, referral 21-0046, classification of action, determination of significance pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act for the acceptance of 2 grants from the Oswego County Soil and Water Conservation District for the Water Quality Program and authorize a contract with the Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation District.
Move it, Mr. President.
Moved by Legislator Dondorfer, seconded by Legislator Wilt. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Number 5.
Item number 5, referral 21-0047, acceptance of 2 grants from the Oswego County Soil and Water Conservation District for the Water Quality Program and authorize a contract with the Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation District.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Dondorfer, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President. Legislator Dondorfer.
Legislator Dondorfer, you have the floor.
Through you to the administration, is it normal for these 2 grants to overlap like that?
Through you, Mr. President, this is Mike Garland from Environmental Services. We have had this grant overlap before. We have received this grant for nearly 3 decades. And as you may know, Monroe County is one of 25 counties that's a member of the Finger Lakes Lake Ontario Watershed Protection Alliance, known as FLOPA. And on occasion, we've bundled the grants. We did it back in 2018. And one of the advantages is that when we accept two grants at the same time, it allows us to more efficiently manage the funds, contracts, and reporting. So we thought that would be prudent this year to do that.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. 6.
Item number 6, referral 21-0048, amend the 2021 capital budget and bond resolution 331 of 2019 to provide an increase in funding for the county public safety building reconstruction project.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. By Legislator Dandorfer, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Boroff.
Legislator Boroff.
Thank you. Through you to the administration, this is a $450,000 increase to the 2021 capital budget. If there are no more unforeseen expenses or circumstances, does this mean that the $450,000 will not actually be bonded?
Through the President, that is correct.
Thank you. Through the President to the administration, how large was the contingency fund in the first place?
Dollar. Through the President, this is Bill Daly with DES. The contingency was $322,000.
Okay. And then finally, through the President to the administration, could you explain what is meant by extending the security walls on the second and third floors to the deck? You mean ground floor? That's the deck, through the President?
Through the President, this is Bill Daly with DES. What is meant by that statement is there were masonry walls that they discovered that did not go all the way to the bottom of the floor above. So there's a gap between the top of the masonry wall and the floor above. So there's a security breach, and it needed to be infilled.
I see. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Any further discussion?
Legislator Dondorfer.
Legislator Dondorfer.
Through you to the administration, can you tell me what line item is at 0?
Yes. To the President, could you repeat the question?
Yes. Can you tell us what line item is at $0?
Through you, Mr. President, this is Mike Garland from DES. I assume the legislator is looking at specific legislative action 1, where it's referring to an amount, increasing the amount of $450,000 from 0 to $450,000. Is that correct?
Yes, in paragraph 1. That's correct. Sorry.
Yep. Through you, Mr. President, no problem. That's because we don't have funding presently in the 2021 capital budget. It was, the funding that was authorized for this was in prior capital budgets. So we're starting from 0 in 2021 to add this $450,000 for the project.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Legislator Hebert.
Legislator Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration. It would seem that the contingency for construction from the original contract covered these unexpected circumstances to date. I don't remember seeing a situation where we have reestablished a construction contingency fund if some of it is used in the past, at least in my 5+ years now on the ledge. Is this normal and I've just missed it, or is this an unusual situation?
Through the President, this is Bill Daly with DES. You are correct. In the past, we have not reestablished generally a contingency, but we have 3 months to go on this project, and we utilized most of the contingency. The initial contingency was relatively small at 6%. This was a redevelopment of a existing space. The building was built in 1963. We acquired the building in 2001, so there was a lot of unforeseen conditions that were encountered behind walls that were not known. We want to ensure we have enough funds available to complete the project on time. We have 3 months left to go. So we just want to ensure there's funds there to complete the project in case there's any more unforeseen conditions.
And thank you, through you, Mr. President, to the administration. I realize this is a crystal ball question. Do you have any feeling on what the likelihood is that the funding will actually be used?
Through the President, this is Bill Daly with DES. Based on the juncture where we're at right now with the project, I don't foresee us using that entire contingency, but we will most likely run into some unforeseen conditions, but I think they will be minor. There'll probably be mechanical, electrical, or plumbing as we're wrapping up those systems right now. But again, we want to ensure that we don't have to stop the project to ask for more funding so we can proceed with the project. So it's a safe stop.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next.
Item number 7, referral 21-0049, amend the 2021 to 2026 capital improvement program and add the 2021 capital budget to add a project entitled Frontier Field Major League Baseball Requirements and authorize financing for the project.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. Legislator Dondorfer, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Wilt.
You spoke over each other.
Legislator Barnhart, too.
Okay, Legislator Wilt, we'll start with you, then we'll go to Legislator Barnhart.
Yes, through the chair. What are the specific improvements that will be made with this funding?
Through the President, this is Bill Daly with DES. They won't necessarily be improvements. I'd like to describe it as the MLB provided the Red Wings, as well as all other franchises throughout the United States, with a list of requirements that all stadiums must meet facility-wise by 2025. They're allowed to make these improvements over a 3-year period. By 2023, there's a minimum set of requirements that the stadiums must meet. And then in 2024, there's another stage. And finally, by 2025, they have to meet all these new requirements or they will lose the franchise.
Okay, and through the chair, will this meet Major League Baseball's requirements that have been identified to keep baseball in Rochester?
Through the President, if we complete and meet the standards that they presented to us or to the Red Wings, that is correct. That as long as we meet those standards, baseball would stay in Rochester based on those standards.
Okay, thank you.
Legislator Hebert.
Barnhart. No, Legislator Barnhart.
Yes.
Thank you, Bill. Through the President to the administration, do we know what the total estimated cost of the improvements will be?
Mr. President, this is Jeff McCann. If I could just step in for a second and just sort of maybe give a slightly broader context of what this referral is and maybe the situation that we're looking at. Earlier this year, Major League Baseball announced a fundamental change in the major and minor league, in the minor league system of baseball, the most significant realignment of that relationship probably in 70 or 80 years. Minor league baseball teams, my understanding in our conversations with the Red Wings, are that they are no longer franchises, but they're license agreements. We are required there was a list that Major League Baseball put out. The purpose of this project is to identify the scope and dollar amount for the next phase of that study. And then once that is done, we will be back before this body for approval of that project. But basically, Mr. Daly was correct in saying that they're giving us until 2025 to make the improvements that are required. But these licensing agreements are now issued in 10-year intervals, which I believe is what the Red Wings have right now. And we anticipate that there's going to be a very competitive environment for these franchises. As you know, there have been public reports that there are numerous franchises or levels of baseball that have just been eliminated. So the number, this was a cost savings on the part of Major League Baseball to sort of reduce the number of minor league teams that there are, and really the teams in the cities with the communities with the best facilities are going to be the teams that retain and maintain these facilities. And I would just say one more thing before I close. Frontier Field is sort of, to many of us on this call, is what we would refer to or consider the new stadium for those of us that remember Silver Stadium. But the reality is, I believe that stadium opened in 1997. And again, in our conversations with the Red Wings, Frontier Field is one of the oldest stadiums in the International League, and also definitely towards the back of the pack in terms of the stadiums that are older than Frontier Field have had significant refreshes, which Frontier Field has not had. So again, this study is proposed to give us a scope of what we're looking for the future. We will be back before this body for approval, but we do anticipate that there will be a significant dollar amount that will need to be reinvested in Frontier Field in order to retain the Red Wing franchise.
Thank you so much for that context and background. So, through the president to the administration, it will cost $1 million to do this study?
Through you, Mr. President, yes, that's correct.
Through the president to the administration, is there a limit to what the county is prepared to spend on the stadium to meet these requirements?
Through you, Mr. President, we're going to do this study. Again, right now, we don't have an idea of what the cost is going to be, but I can assure you the county executive and the administration is committed to doing everything we need to do to make sure that the Red Wings stay in Rochester.
Through the president to the administration, is Major League Baseball contributing any money to these improvements?
Through you, Mr. President, no, they are not.
Through the president to the administration, what is the Red Wings' contribution to the stadium? I know they pay something every year.
Through the chair, this is Laura Smith, Chief Deputy County Attorney. The Red Wings are obligated to pay some maintenance and repair costs pursuant to the lease agreement. We cannot make a legal conclusion at this time what the study will say regarding the responsibilities. However, the county is responsible for all structural elements within the stadium, so to the extent any costs are necessary for those structural elements, those will be borne by the county.
Through the president to the administration, what is the approximate annual amount the Red Wings pay now for the lease agreement for these maintenance and repair costs?
Mr. President, if you can give us one moment.
Mr. President, Robert Franklin, County Finance. Technically, the Rochester Community Baseball does not pay Monroe County under the terms of the lease. What they do over the course of their 10-year agreement is fund up to $100,000 of fan amenities and repairs and maintenance for the facilities they're required to maintain. I will add that there is other arrangements such as revenue sharing. The Rochester Community Baseball solicits entities to advertise both inside and outside the stadium. You know, that big sign by Route 490. So there's a revenue sharing agreement for that, as well as the parking revenues under contract with MCC.
Is that $100,000 a year or over the 10-year lease, Mr. Franklin?
Mr. President, the value is $100,000 a year for a total of $1 million for the 10-year lease. It's not necessarily exactly $100,000 a year. They could do $200,000 this year, and that, you know, gets them off the hook, as long as it's $1 million over the course of the 10-year agreement.
Thank you. Thank you.
Through the
Go ahead,
president.
Legislator Barnhart.
Thank you. Through the president to the administration, approximately how much money does the county still owe for the construction of Frontier Field?
Mr. President, the original debt service will be paid off in 2024. From 21 to 3 and 4, it's 4 years worth. It's in the neighborhood of $6 to $8 million. I could get the exact figure before the full ledge meeting.
Okay. Thank you so much for all of this information. I think we all agree that it's very important that the Red Wings remain in Rochester, and I'm very curious to see what this study produces and how much money taxpayers will be asked to pay to keep the stadium going for many years into the future. But if that amount is exorbitant, I do certainly hope that we revisit this issue with Major League Baseball and ask them to contribute more money because they are benefiting from this. And at some point, it's just not fair to the citizens of Rochester to be held over a barrel like this. So I appreciate this discussion very much, and I look forward to continuing it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Legislator Hebert? You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I was muted.
It's a good thing I can read lips.
A good thing. At today's 3 o'clock planning board meeting where the CIP for 2022 to 2027 was presented, I think I'm doing this to explain my vote. It was the line of questioning that Legislator Barnhart just pursued was also pursued by myself and others. And we were told that and I want to make this very clear, that it is a very rough estimate of the costs would be to meet the MLB requirements. And because they're very specialized, that is why it is a very rough estimate. What they put in the CIP was $11 million. And that would be or could be spent over a 3-year period. There are requirements for opening day in each of the next 3 years, not counting 2021. So 2022, 2023, 2024, there are open day requirements. So it's a phased implementation of these requirements. There were a lot of good questions asked at the CIP meeting. Ultimately, the planning board did pass this $1 million into the CIP for this year. And because we won't know until such time as this study and what they use the term soft money today will be, without spending that, you won't know what it would cost to keep the Red Wings here. I am in favor of keeping our 2 remaining sports teams here. We've seemed to have managed to make others leave, or they've chosen to leave for whatever reasons. And I did vote in favor of it, and I will be voting in favor of this tonight. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you,
Legislator Baines.
Legislator Colby.
Legislator Baines.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, this asset with the collapse of the minor leagues in the surrounding counties, Wayne County had a team, Genesee County had a team, years and years ago, Livingston County. This is a regional asset. Is there any pursuit of partners in terms of revenue to fund this from the region?
Through you, Mr. President, no, that's not anything we've contemplating pursuing at this point. The stadium is our possession, and our thought is that we would be responsible for the maintenance of it.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President, to the administration. Well, so let me try again. And this is not to be difficult, but just trying to think out loud here. Isn't this a significant asset for Western New York? And would the county pursue support from the state of New York for this significant economic development driver? If you Through you.
Yes, through you, Mr. President. I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question, Legislator Baines. Yes, absolutely, we would be looking for state support with this. This is something we've had conversations with the state delegation about. Again, just to put this on their radar. Legislator Hebert is correct. We have a placeholder in the CIP for $11 million for this project. One thing that would be important to note with that is all of these requirements are what we would be, non-fan facing improvements. These are all internal to the clubhouse, the operation, and the requirements that would benefit the players and improve that aspect of the facilities. That $11 million number is a starting point for us. And actually, I just had somebody had sent me a note here that actually Frontier Field is the second oldest stadium in the league. Buffalo is actually a little bit older, but they just had a facelift of upwards of $24 million for their facility. Again, this is tonight is the first step in this. By all means, reaching out and working with our state partners is something that we will be doing, and I know they have helped other communities with their stadium needs. So the answer to your question, Legislator Baines, is yes.
Thank you, Jeff. And just as a comment, the stadium, Silver Stadium as well, but connects our generations. It's essential to our community, and I know we all want to participate in supporting it, but we just don't want to be extorted in doing it. So I look forward to our working with state actors and working as a community. I'm in favor of workers, but I'm also in favor of taxpayers. So all of these dollars are being spent to support baseball players. And quite frankly, my major focus is on baseball fans and baseball taxpayers. So thank you for your answers. I appreciate it. I yield.
Legislator Colby.
Legislator Colby, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you, Mr. President, when will we expect this study to be done? And will that study be released to the legislative body at the time of completion?
Through you, Mr. President, I'll answer that. If I say anything wrong, I'll ask Mr. Garland to correct me. But we anticipate having that study done in approximately a year. It would be our goal to have that done in time to try to seek state funding for next year. And yes, by all means, we would be presenting those findings publicly, and the legislature would receive that.
Thank you. through you, Mr. President, and maybe the list is too long, but is there a short version of the list of the type of things that will be that their Major League Baseball would like to see improved to the facilities over the next 3 to 4 years? And is that list available for us to be shared with us at this time? Or is it quite lengthy? Can it be summarized, I guess?
Through you, Mr. President, I would defer to Mr. Daly or Mr. Garland to answer that.
Through the President, yes, we can provide the list.
Through you, Mr. President, yeah, if you could supply it by electronic, so I can just scan it sometime. But thank you, and I'll leave the floor back to you, Mr. President.
Legislator
I've got a
Brew.
quick question for the administration. Is there any money left from the naming rights? Where does that money go, or is that paid? The naming rights for the field, Frontier?
Through you, Mr. President, those dollars are paid annually, and it goes into the Frontier Field Revenue account.
And who uses that money? Is that for operating?
Yes, operation and maintenance, Mr. President.
So that goes towards that $100,000 that the baseball team pays for maintenance?
No, Mr. President, that is separate.
Okay, Legislator Brew.
Yes, to the President, to the administration, regarding the referrals in front of us now, with the $1 million allocation for study. Now, if the administration, the President, to the administration, could you describe what type of business would be conducting this study? Would that be a typical engineering firm, or would this firm be more specialized, such as a firm specializing in sporting franchises and sporting venues?
Through you, Mr. President, one of the requirements in the RFP that we put out publicly was that a firm had in meeting and dealing with Major League Baseball requirements, and there were a number of firms that had responded. Some were local firms that partnered with national firms, and then there were several national firms that partnered with local firms to meet the requirements of our RFP.
Okay, and through you, Mr. President, the administration, it's good to hear that there are some local firms that can partner with some larger, more experienced firms to assist in this, just for the purpose of trying to keep the business local. One more question, if I may, through the President to the administration. The final product of the study, would they actually be providing something close to preliminary engineered plans and specs, or would they, and also through the administration, to the President of the administration, would they providing a more granular breakdown of the projected costs per phase?
Through you, Mr. President, yes, there would be drawings that would be ready, and there would be detailed cost estimates with that.
Thank you. And just one more follow-up question to the President, to the administration. So this is pretty much all player-based improvements, as we heard before. So we're talking about typical structural, electrical, plumbing, those type of improvements to the existing footprint of the area of the stadium. Is that correct, to the President?
Yes, through you, Mr. President.
Okay. Thank you. I yield.
Any further discussion on this one? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Item number 8, referral 21-0050, amending resolution 270 of 2019 as amended by resolution 31 of 2020, authorizing contract with Securus Technologies, Inc. to provide telephone calls at no cost to inmates in the Monroe County Jail and the Andrew P. Maloney Star Academy, formerly known as the Monroe County Correctional Facility.
Move,
By
Mr.
Legislator
President.
Boyce. Seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Smith.
Legislator Barnhart?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Sheriff Baxter and Under Sheriff Brown for putting this proposal forward. As I've spoken before, the burden for the cost of phone calls from the jail does not fall on inmates. It falls on family members who are often women and are unable to afford these high costs. These calls are vitally important for inmates to maintain ties with their families, for their mental health, for their well-being, and for their successful reentry into the community. This proposal does not have a set number of calls that would be subsidized, but I am trusting the sheriff will abide by the current allotment of 1 hour and 15 minutes of time. That would save families about $30 a month. By using the telephone trust fund, we're using funds paid by families of inmates, not additional tax dollars. And I think that's very, very important to note. I do not believe in profiting from incarceration. It's amazing to see how far we've come in just 1 year and recognizing the need to address structural racism in our criminal justice system. And I thank the activists who have worked so hard for progress and will continue to do so and continue to work for equity. This is an important step on this issue. I think all of the calls should be subsidized, but I certainly hope this is not the last step. And I encourage all of my colleagues to vote for this proposal. Thank you.
Legislator Smith.
Go ahead, Legislator Smith.
I was just wondering, through the president, what does limited mean in the relation to this referral?
Mr. President, I believe the undersheriff is available to answer this.
Yeah, so it's going to be a specific number of calls. So we are going to start out with 3 15-minute calls and then a 30-minute video call so that people that are inside can keep that contact with their family. But it's going to be limited to that as of right now, as we see how this plays out and how the funds go to ensure that we're able to keep up with them.
Thank you.
Mr. President, Legislator Felder.
Legislator Felder, you have the floor.
I want to applaud Sheriff Baxter. I know one of the things I appreciate about him since I met him is that he is a law enforcement official, but he's also has a very humane and sympathetic side to him, where he really looks to try and help rehabilitate those who come through his facility. So, you know, we've been talking to him over the years about these different things, and he's always wanted to listen, and I think that's important, you know. And I'm glad that he's agreed to do this and to make it. He had already said to me before that they would, in emergency situations, allow inmates to make free phone calls, and I'm glad that they have actually formalized it a little bit more, so we can so our families. I can tell you from having incarcerated family members, those calls can rack up quick to the point where families won't even accept them sometimes. And so this is a good thing, it's a good step, and I appreciate the sheriff and the undersheriff doing it.
Thank you.
Legislator Hasman.
Legislator Hasman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to express my thanks and gratitude to Sheriff Baxter and Under Sheriff Brown and the activists in Monroe County who continue to work towards equity every single day, and including this important march towards that. Just make a note that placing a phone call is something that most of us, all of us, I think, take for granted. We have our phones with us pretty much all the time, but for incarcerated people, that phone is an important link to their loved ones in the outside world. And this creates a financial burden for many, many families. Placing a phone call from behind bars is a significant cost for their families. That cost is not just in dollars and cents, but it's also family connections and relationships. Numerous studies have shown us the more frequent contact with people outside of prison dramatically reduces their recidivism rates. Decades of research also tell us that maintaining family ties can increase the likelihood of a successful reentry into society. I believe in setting people up for success. A phone is not just a luxury, it's a lifeline. This is an important first step, and that's why I asked my colleagues to support this measure. Thank you.
Legislator Colby.
Legislator Colby.
Through you, Mr. President, I guess to the sheriff's office, is this just for inmates that have are serving time, or is this for also for inmates or individuals that are waiting trial?
Through the president, this is going to be for every inmate inside the Monroe County Jail.
So through you, Mr. President, to make it clear in my mind, doesn't matter what their status is as far as serving time or if they're being held waiting for trial, correct?
That is absolutely correct. So it doesn't matter if it's a parole violator or a federal prisoner or somebody awaiting trial or someone sentenced. If they're inside the Monroe County Jail, they're going to get these credits.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any further discussion?
Legislator Lamar.
Legislator Lamar.
Through you, Mr. President, to the Sheriff's Department, how does this translate to the deaf and hard of hearing community? What does it look like for them? Is it 3 video calls, or how does that work?
We would absolutely accommodate video calls. I'll be honest, I'm not positive how we do that currently, if we do TTY or video calls or, so I'll have to check and get back to you. Whatever it is that they do, we'll make sure that they get these free calls. To the president.
Thank you.
Legislator Hebert.
Legislator Hebert.
Yes, through you, Mr. President, to the administration. In paragraph number 3, the one numbered 3, I'm a little confused. It sounds like we're being asked to amend the contract for the next 5 years with an additional option to renew for an additional 5 one-year periods. Can you just summarize for us what the financial impact might be on both the county and inmates for these calls under those renewals?
Through the president, it's approximately $2,000 a week is what it's going to be taking out of the funds from the jail phone fund. So approximately $2,000 a week for as long as the contract goes. The reason those are the original contract was for 5 years and then the 1-year renewals. So this is just amending this so we have a mechanism to pay Securus for these phone calls, which there currently is no way for them to hold back part of the commission to pay for these free calls that we're given. So that's the whole purpose of this, is just to give us that mechanism so Securus can just hold back their portion of the call still.
Thank you. So just to be clear, the current contract runs through February 28th of 2025, and the only change being made is allowing them to keep the money it's costing them to provide the free calls rather than give it over to the jail fund, whatever number it was up above. Is that correct?
Through the president, that is correct.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 9, referral 21-0051, acceptance of a grant from the United States Department of Homeland Security, Homeland Security Investigations, Rochester Division for state and local overtime.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. By Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 10, referral 21-0052, authorize intermunicipal agreements with the Yates and Chautauqua counties for reimbursement to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office for the provision of security and transportation services for inmates of the Yates and Chautauqua counties at the Rochester Psychiatric Center.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. By Legislator Boyce. Second. Seconded by Legislator Ansello and Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this?
Yes, Legislator Boyce.
Legislator Boyce, you have the floor.
Yes, through the president to the undersheriff. Do we have the manpower to be able to be doing these transportation and security for outlying counties at this time?
This is Kim Hinckley, counsel to the sheriff. This is an agreement with these counties in the event that there is an inmate from the counties at the psych center and they would need transportation to the hospital or a doctor's appointment. We would have the necessary person to do that, and we would be reimbursed by those particular counties. So yes, we do have the manpower because we do not anticipate it's going to be a big lift.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next.
Item number 11, referral 21-0053, amend resolution 352 of 2019 to accept additional funding and extend the time period for the aid to localities grant from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for the offices of the District Attorney and the Public Defender.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. Moved by legislator Boyce, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Number 12.
Item number 12, referral 21-0054, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services for the offices of the Public Defender and the Conflict Defender for the caseload reduction program.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. Moved by legislator Boyce, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? See none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries. Next.
Item number 13, referral 21-0055, acceptance of a grant from the Transportation Security Administration to continue a partnership with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office for the National Explosive Detection K-9 Team Program.
Move it, Mr. President.
By legislator Boyce, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Barros.
Legislator Barra.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, will this admittedly slight or about 10% reduction in grant funding for K-9 units working in the airport have any effect on the availability for K-9s in the airport? Any reduction?
Through the president, Jennifer Curley here from the Sheriff's Office. No, we are not reducing our staff or the number of dogs assigned to the airport at this time because of this reduction.
Okay, through the chair, through the president of the administration, do you anticipate reducing the number of dogs in the future, or that's not under discussion at the moment?
Through the president, no, we haven't discussed it yet. The airport funds the portion of the salaries that the grant doesn't fund. So we'll possibly be talking to them soon.
Oh, that sounds good. I like that. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next.
Item number 14, referral 21-0056, adoption of Monroe County Sheriff's Plan pursuant to New York State Executive Order 203.
Move it, Mr. President.
Moved by legislator Boyce, seconded by legislator Dondorfer. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Number 15.
Item number 15, referral 21-0057, approval of public employees blanket bond for the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. Legislator Wilk, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this one? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 16, referral 21-0058, authorize the annual contribution to the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. Legislator Wilk, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 17, referral 21-0059, acceptance of a grant from the Genesee Transportation Council for a land use project.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. By legislator Wilk, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 18, referral 21-0060, authorize a contract with Keeler Construction Company, Inc. for construction services for the 2021 highway maintenance project in the towns of Greece, Parma, Rondequoit, and the city of Rochester.
Move it, Mr. President.
Legislator Colby, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 19, referral 21-0061, authorize a contract with CP Ward Inc. for construction services for the Elm Grove Road Culvert Project over Round Creek tributary in the town of Gates.
Move it, Mr. President.
Legislator Colby, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 20, referral 21-0062, authorize the acquisition of interest in real property for the Lake Road Phase 2 Highway Rehabilitation Project in the town of Webster.
Move it, Mr. President.
By legislator Colby, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Barra.
Legislator Barra.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, have these parcel contracts been all signed yet?
Murphy from real property. Not all of them. There's one with the town of Webster that we will probably eminent domain because of previous conservation easement that's in place that doesn't allow them to authorize an easement without eminent domain.
Thank you. Through the president to the administration, which parcel is that?
I don't have it in front of me. I can let you know, before full ledge.
That'd be fine. And through the president to the administration, aside from the restriction placed on the property by the whatever it was, the environmental
The
restriction.
conservation easement.
Thank you. The conservation easement.
Yep.
Is the property owner amenable to working with the county on this?
Yes, they just they reviewed it. Their attorney reviewed it. We reviewed it, and this is the only way that it can be done. It's minimal impact to the area that's covered by the conservation easement, but it's required by the language that's in it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Legislator Hebert.
Legislator Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration. First of all, Mr. Murphy, I'd like to congratulate you and your staff on a very, very successful Lake Road Phase 1 project. My constituents love it. You did a great job. On this list of parcels and owners, could you just briefly, what are the interests? Are they just rights away? Are they actual ownership? What are we?
Everything is a permanent easement for highway purposes. It's been many, many years since the county acquired anything in fee, because most of the highways within Monroe County are easement roads anyway. So we changed our practice probably 15 plus years ago to only acquire permanent easements for highway purposes.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is just basically a continuation of Phase 1. Same approach.
Through the president, yes, it is.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next.
Item number 21, referral 21-0063, classification of action, determination of significance pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act for the acquisition of interest in real property for the Phillips Road Highway Improvement Project located at 800 Phillips Road in the Village of Webster.
Move, Mr. President.
Moved by legislator Dondorfer, seconded by legislator Wilt. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Barra.
Legislator Barra.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, this referral is related to the following referral, 21-0064. And my question is, what happens, if anything, if for whatever reason there is found to be an impact from the seeker process?
Through the chair, this is Laura Smith, Chief Deputy County Attorney. Under the seeker rules, if an impact is found or the potential for a significant adverse environmental impact, the seeker regulations would require the legislature to issue a positive declaration, in which case they would see an environmental scoping, and then an environmental impact statement would be prepared to look to see if any impacts could be avoided or otherwise mitigated through the planning process.
Okay. So through the president, just so I'm clear, so approval of the next referral would not be an impediment, would just override it or modify it, correct, through the president?
Through the president, the legislature would not be able to move forward with the underlying action until a determination of significance is made pursuant to seeker. So a negative declaration, which is recommended by this resolution in the short environmental assessment form that the legislature has reviewed, that would satisfy the requirements of seeker. The alternative to a negative declaration, which is not quite logical under the guise of seeker, is called a positive declaration. A positive declaration means there is a potential for significant adverse environmental impact, which would require an environmental impact statement.
Understood.
And those requirements of seeker would have to be complied with before the underlying action may be undertaken, approved, or funded by the legislature.
Okay. Thank you.
Legislator Hebert.
Legislator Hebert.
Quick question through you, Mr. President, the administration. There's a TA number listed on this under the parcel. Is that the correct number? Because it doesn't bring anything up on the Monroe County Property Tax Portal.
Through the president, could you repeat that?
Sure. Through you, Mr. President, under the word parcel, the 7th line down, it has a TA number. When I park that number into the Monroe County Property Tax Portal, it usually comes up with a description of the property, location, and other information. In this case, it doesn't come up with anything. Is that the proper number, or is there an error in this referral?
Through the president, I will have to check into that and resolve that issue if there is one before full ledge.
Thank you. And if you could get that to me, through the president, well before full ledge, so I can check it out. I don't want to get it an hour before ledge. Thank you.
Yep.
Legislator Terp.
Any further? Legislator Terp.
Through the president to the administration, can you just give a brief overview of this of the Phillip Road improvement project?
This is the seeker, Legislator Terp. Maybe that question would be better on the next referral.
Well, I know the next one, but I mean, technically it's actually in the actual description of it, the Phillips Road Highway Improvement Project. So I would imagine that the answer would be the same for this one or the next one, because they're all based upon the same project.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. President, I believe Jim Pond is available to address this.
Yes, through the chair, to the president. Give me one moment. I wanted to read this correct description here. Okay. So our Phillips Road project runs between Route 104 and Schlegel Road. We're going to reconstruct and rehabilitate the road. We're going to be working on the riding surface, the drainage, catch basins, edge treatments, adjusting guide rails, curbs, gutters, and paved shoulders, and replace the road base where necessary. We're going to be looking at adding bicycle space where we can through shoulder width. And essentially, this is a repaving of that road. So again, between Route 104 and Schlegel Road.
Okay, thank you. And then to the president, I'll say the same kind of thing that Legislator Hebert did. The second half of Phillips Road was redone, and it was done in amazing fashion. It was done quick, and it was done well. So I'm looking forward to having this done in my district as well. So thank you.
Okay, and through the president, I was referring to a project in 2026, 2023 design, 26 construction. I may have misspoken on that. I'm talking about a project that's coming up on there. So I apologize if I misled you there.
All right, to the president, I guess I'm confused now. So the Phillips Road improvement project that we're going to be voting on the secret for, is that the same project that you were just talking about through the president?
No, sir, Mr. President, I'm sorry. I went to the CIP and read up future projects for you. We have built the project already, and we're trying to make things right. There is an existing culvert that is infringing, and we're attempting to adjust the right-of-way on that. I apologize for that misreading there.
Okay, well, that's okay. I mean, we'll be excited about that second project as well. through the president. So, all right, so this is just amending the project that was done beforehand with just some extra right-of-ways.
That is correct, sir. Thank you. Through the president.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item carries.
Item number 22, referral 21-0064, authorize the acquisition of interest in real property for the Phillips Road Improvement Project located at 800 Phillips Road in the village of Webster.
Mr. President.
Seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Hebert,
Legislator Hebert.
just through you to the administration, same number problem on this referral, obviously. Thank you.
Great. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. 23.
Item number 23, referral 21-0065, amend resolution 432 of 2017 as amended by resolution 229 of 2018 to increase the contracts for the provision of mental health, developmental disabilities, and alcoholism and substance abuse services in 2018 for the Monroe County Office of Mental Health.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Smith.
Legislator Smith, you have the floor.
Through the president, why is the contract for 2018 being amended at this time?
Mr. President, Robert Franklin, County Finance. This is a situation where our legislative action has to catch up to New York State's action. New York State provides funding each calendar year for a host of mental health service providers. Those are all issued as advances, and then at the end of the year, all those entities are required to fill out a cost report. No doubt, some entities spend more than they were advanced, and some entities spend less than they were advanced. And it takes New York State about anywhere from 1.5 to 3 years to figure all that out. And what they do once they figure it all out is they reallocate those dollars to the providers who spent more. So in this particular referral before you, New York State has finally determined for us who we need to take money back from and who we need to give it to.
Thank you for that explanation.
Legislator Barros?
You through, Legislator Smith?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Legislator Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, and given that explanation, and that's why it's cost neutral to us, is simply because these funds have already been allocated and spent, and we're not actually liable either way. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, Legislator Boyce.
Legislator Boyce, you have the floor.
Yes, to the through the president to Mr. Franklin. Is there on attachment A, which I don't have unfortunately before me because I've got too many papers in front of me, but is there a listing of who is getting more money and those that are not getting money? Is that part of attachment A?
Mr. President, I guess in this referral, attachment A is the substitute to attachment A that you would have received back in December of 2017 for the 18 contracts. So this attachment A doesn't show the pluses and minuses, it just shows the new numbers.
All right, well, through the president, it would be greatly appreciated if we could have that before us.
Certainly, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next.
Item number 24, referral 21-066, acceptance of a grant from New York State Office of Children and Family Services for the Safe Harbor Initiative for 2021.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
By Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator
Legislator
DeFlorio.
Legislator Smith.
I was, through the president, why is the funding being decreased this year?
Mr. President, we have Brent Whitfield or Thalia Wright available to answer that.
Good evening. Hi, this is Thalia Wright, Commissioner of DHS. Through the president, we were actually lucky to get the funding. Originally, we were told by OCFS that we were not getting an allocation. And to our surprise, when we got the award letter, we were extremely excited to find out that OCFS found additional funding. And because Monroe has done so well and is considered what we call a graduated county, meaning that we've utilized our safe harbor funding with our collaboration with the Center for Youth over the last several years and created extensive outcomes for the sexually exploited and sex-trafficked children, that they awarded us this grant. So it's actually a wonderful surprise and a blessing. So we continue the partnerships to create those services that are dearly needed.
Thank you for that explanation. I do have a follow-up question. Because there was a decrease, do you see the program still being run effectively?
Through the president, I absolutely. The Center for Youth has a great program that we worked with OCFS through many, many years. They were one of the pilot counties. So they've built the infrastructure to assist with the service provisions for the program. So again, this funding would just help enhance and continue on the sustainability of things that they already have in place.
Thank you. I yield the floor.
Legislator DeFlorio.
Legislator DeFlorio.
Thank you. Through the chair, just to follow up, I am dismayed to see that this vital program for our youth has been reduced this year. Through the president, you indicated that that you were actually pleased to get any money from the state. Could you maybe explain the reasoning behind that? Have they has the state changed their prioritization of these types of services to our youth? I'm just kind of curious what's behind that statement.
Sure. Through you, Mr. President, unfortunately, I can't speak to the state decision-making. As a recent employee through the Office of Children and Family Services, this is not just unique to Monroe. Every year, at the end of the year, when they're looking at their budget and different programming, they decide and they allocate funding to different districts. Again, Monroe County has received the Safe Harbor funding through what was really transparent when the counties came on for originally a 5-year plan. When you get around the 4th year, the state was very open to identify the additional counties to come on and worked with counties that had sustainable programs with the technical assistance and ensuring that they can continue on. But unfortunately, by the 5th year, Monroe is considered a graduated county, which the funding for the Safe Harbor program when it originally came on had ended. And looking at DHS contracts, we would have been blessed to continue with contracted services to meet those gaps when the funding is either cut or discontinued. So again, I can't speak for the state of their decision making, but what I can speak to is my experience, and this is not unique.
Thank you. And through the president to the administration, just then as a follow-up, just to make sure I'm understanding, are you then anticipating any specific services will be cut as a result in this decrease in funding?
Do you, Mr. President? I do not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That at least is good news.
Great. Any further discussion? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Legislator Boyce, I apologize.
Legislator Boyce, go ahead.
Yes, through the president to Ms. Wright. I have, I know this funding comes in and came in strong 5 years ago, and every year it's been cut and cut and cut. But a question to you tonight: do you have the data with regards to how many youth have been served in the this last 2020 calendar year?
Through you, Mr. President, no, I do not have the data right now, but we can gather that from internally and from our contracted agencies and provide that.
Okay. And in your own words, through the president, what would you describe, or how would you describe Monroe County's commitment in addition to the state funding that we receive every year?
Last 20. Legislator Burrow. Thank you, Mr. President. Through your administration.
Hello?
What happened?
Can you repeat the question, please?
I believe I still had the floor.
Yep. Yeah, there was a little audio visual mistake there, Legislator Boyce.
Okay, thank you.
Repeated.
She just wants the question repeated. For some reason, they were playing back Legislator Barroff's last statement.
Oh, okay. Well, he has powers. Yes, through the president, I guess my question to Ms. Wright was with regards to Monroe County's commitment. I understand we're now talking about the state commitment to Monroe County and their children, our children. What is Monroe County's commitment? Do we see that we're going to be able to have additional funding so we can safeguard our children from predators?
Do you, Mr. President? I definitely believe so. On 2 points, I was privileged through my employment through the Office of Children and Family Services to sit at the table from implementation from the first year at the state level. Monroe County, the Center for Youth, they have been rock stars in this area and have put forth specific models that other counties that were struggling on implementation was able to utilize. We see the benefit across the board with the children that are referred to that program. And if I could just say also internally with our children that we serve through our Child and Family Services Division, through CPS. So even when we didn't anticipate the funding, there were services that were already in place to support this very vulnerable population. So as we look at the funding and identify the additional gaps, again, it's just going to be a blessing that we'll be able to put forth additional services to meet the needs.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Appreciate it.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 25, referral 21-0067, acceptance of a grant from the Association of Zoos and Aquariums for an orangutan conservation project led by Monroe County Seneca Park Zoo.
Move it, Mr. President.
By
Second.
Legislator Alcoffer, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Barrow.
Legislator Barrow.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, is this grant essentially a research grant?
Mr. President, I believe we have Director Meredith on the line. Okay, I'm sorry. I think I might have been mistaken about Director Meredith being available. But Legislator, the answer to your question is yes.
Okay. And the only follow-up question I would have is, do we anticipate that this is a one-year research project, or it might continue into the future, and i.e. might bring in an additional grant fundings next year? Do we have any thoughts about that through the president?
Through you, Mr. President, it's our understanding this is just for this year.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Legislator Hebert.
Legislator Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration. I note that in the next to last paragraph, it says this grant requires a 50% local match. Was this expected and planned for in the original budget that we passed back in December?
Through you, Mr. President, no, we were not aware of this at the time the budget was put together, but funding will be available through this through the management of the department's budget.
Thank you. A request then through you, Mr. President, to the administration. When you figure out what money you're going to move from where to where, would you please tell us?
Through the president, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yield the floor.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next.
Item number 26, referral 21-0068, authorizing intermunicipal agreement with the City of Rochester Police Department for traffic control services at Frontier Field.
Move it, Mr. President. Second.
Moved by legislator Ansello, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this?
Yes, President Carbone, Legislator Dondorfer.
Go ahead, legislator Dondorfer.
I'd just like to declare my interest. I work for the Rochester Police Department.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. 27.
Item number 27, referral 21-0069, authorizes an intermunicipal agreement with the City of Rochester to accept funding for the Monroe County Eviction Prevention Pilot Initiative 2.0 program.
Move it, Mr. President.
By legislator Ansello, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Barra.
Legislator Barra.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration. So from reading this referral, essentially we're going to have about $12.2 million for eviction relief. Is that correct?
Through the president, this is Corinda Crosdell, Deputy County Executive for Health and Human Services. This is the city's proportion of the eviction prevention program money. I believe the county has received a separate allocation directly from the federal government for CARES Act. I believe the total amount is closer to $22 million.
Okay.
Between both municipalities.
So I was confused through the president by saying we were given the same amount for the same purpose, but there's in fact more funding available on the county side. Is that correct, the president?
Through the president, it's coming from two different municipalities, one being the city and one being the county.
Thank you. And through the president to the administration, given this funding, do we have an idea of what the need is compared to the amount of funding we are receiving? Is it enough, or is it just going to take care of part of the problem, or we do not know?
Through the president, we will find out through this process what the general need of the population is. We don't know at this time.
Okay, and then finally, through the president to the administration, what department or entity will be controlling this program?
Through the president, this will go through Commissioner Wright's Department of Human Services, who's set up for this type of work.
For the county?
Through the president, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next.
Item number 28, referral 21-0070, authorization to settle a lawsuit in U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of New York, case number 15-CV6119.
Move it, Mr. President.
Moved by legislator Delahanty, seconded by legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'm correct to understand if we wish to discuss this, we need to go into executive session?
Yes, we do.
I move we go into executive session then, Mr. President.
Second that.
Would it be all right if we take this item out of order and move it to the last?
Yeah, that'd be okay.
Okay.
All right, we'll do that. That'd be easier.
Yes.
Thank you, Legislator Barra. Okay, let's go to the next one then.
Item number 29, referral 21-0071, acceptance of a grant from the United States Department of the Treasury for the Emergency Rent Assistance for the Monroe County Eviction Prevention Pilot Initiative 2.0 program.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Legislator Delahanty, seconded by legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Hebert.
Legislator Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have some comments before I get to my questions. On February 2nd, a letter was delivered to the administration's office with a number of questions in it. Got a pretty prompt response time by Mr. McCann on February 8th. However, there was a subsection 3B II that requested a briefing on the administration's eviction prevention pilot 1.0. And that question, that request is never, I've not received any response to this date. A couple of things that everybody should be aware of. The eviction pilot 1.0, from what I can tell from the CARES Act funding reports we've received, has gotten at least $6 million. And this referral and 069 before it act to combine two separate grants that have been issued to the city and the county for what the county administration is calling Eviction Prevention Pilot Initiative 2.0. I'd like to amend my request to get a briefing on both of these and how it's planned. When the federal government passed I think it was a $900 billion law in December, they intentionally gave separate monies to the various entities for these eviction pilots so that all communities could be served. And if this is a continuation, which the language, if it's a continuation of the 1.0 program, which the language here seems to indicate, the choice of the three nonprofit entities who are running this for the county, I'd like to know how they're going to make sure that the funding gets out to appropriate places in the towns and villages and things of that nature. So here are my questions finally after that long soliloquy. How much have we expended? How much on pilot program 1.0 was expended from CARES or any other sources?
Mr. President, if you can give us one moment, please.
Mr. President, the full allocation has been expended, the full $6 million.
So through you, Mr. President of the administration, the only expenditure was the $6 million?
I'm sorry, through the president, are you speaking of eviction prevention program 0.1 or 0.2?
1.0, ma'am, through the president?
Through the president, all of the dollars for the eviction prevention program has been expended.
Through the president, I understand that, Ms. Crossdale. I'm trying to make sure I know what all the dollars means in an exact amount.
Through the president, the dollars have been spent to pay back rent for individuals who were impacted by COVID-19. It was spent on rental assistance.
Through the president, let me try another way. How much money was spent on rental assistance? Not all of it. I believe you that all of it has been expended. What is the dollar value of the amount that was expended? Is it $1? Is it $6 million? Is it 15?
Through the president, for the eviction prevention program 0.1, we were allocated $6 million for rental assistance out of the $129 million CARES Act. $6 million in total has been spent on rental assistance.
Understood. And just to be clear, through the president, that $6 million was a number that the administration chose because you had a great deal of latitude in how to use that $129.4 million, correct? I'm sorry, could you repeat your answer through the president? There was a honk.
Through the president, yes.
Through you, Mr. President, can you tell us again in the staying on the 1.0 program, how many people that helped?
Through the president, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I can get that.
Thank you. And through the president, could you also get the physical, I'm going to call it the physical distribution of the numbers, like by zip code or by town, or some way to tell geographically where the money went?
Through the president, I'll seek to separate the data out in that manner.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Crossdale. Through the president, moving on to the 2.0 program, the city received $6.1 million in their grant. The county received $15.9 million in their grant. So it's about it's $26 million additional. As I have read that act, it is proportional to the population. So the city received the same amount per person essentially as the county did. Is that correct, to your understanding?
Through the president, I couldn't speak to the formula from the federal government. We were given the opportunity as large municipalities to apply for the funds directly. So we just followed the federal formula in receipt of those funds.
Yes, through the president, your application had to be in by February 12th, and you obviously got it in early and got quick response. I commend you for that. So finally, in the briefing that I've already requested, on February 2nd, I'd like you to include the plans for pilot 2.0 as well. And I'd like to see that happen at least a week before our full legislature session, if that's at all possible. Is that possible? Through you, Mr. President.
Through the president, that's possible. I'll make sure I follow up on that.
Thank you, Ms. Crossdale. I yield the floor.
Any further discussion?
Legislator Lamar.
Legislator Lamar, you have the floor.
I just have a quick question through you, Mr. President, to the administration. Which agencies were selected as the fiduciary agents, and how was that determination made?
Through the president, I don't have the list in front of me, but I can get that to you, Legislator Lamar. It went through the procurement process.
Okay, thank you. And through you, Mr. President, to the administration, I just want to mention that before the end of the year, towards the end of the year, I received numerous phone calls and emails from residents who tried to access that funding through the Catholic Family Center, and even trying to make a connection through 211. And they were either stonewalled or didn't get information about whether they were denied or if their application was accepted prior to the funding running out. And I received numerous of calls. I even had the pleasure of speaking to the CEO over at CFC to voice some of those concerns, but by then the money was gone. So through you, Mr. President, I just want to make sure that when we're selecting agencies, we're selecting agencies who are really advocating to help people who really need this rental assistance, and not putting up roadblocks like if they can't pay their rent next month, they won't, they're not eligible to receive the funding. I want to make sure that we're bringing in agencies who are really working for the people and not putting up more barriers for them. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. 30.
Item number 30, authorize the issuance of refunding bonds.
Moved by legislator Delahanty, seconded by legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Barros.
Legislator Barra.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a comment. I'm always very excited about refinancing of the bonds and saving funding on the interest savings. And I just commend the administration for doing this, and I know it has a lot to do with our financial director. So I just want to say kudos to doing this, and I hope we can see a few more of these moving forward this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 31, referral 21-0073, amend resolution 273 of 2014 to increase the contract with Health Economics Group, Inc. for the third-party administration of Monroe County self-insured employee retiree dental insurance plan.
Move it, Mr. President.
Seconded by legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Hebert.
Legislator Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration. And late in the second paragraph, there is a section that when I read it makes it imply that the organization providing these services today might not want to continue without this retroactive payment. Is that the correct interpretation?
Mr. President, we have Deborah Wood available to answer that.
Thank you. Yes, this is Deborah Wood with HR. Through the president, we don't anticipate that HEG will stop providing the services, but we do recognize that we need to provide additional funding for them to meet all the obligations with which we have contracted them.
Through you, Mr. President, is there something special in this contract that would allow them to not meet their obligations if we didn't pay them this extra funds? Sounds like an unusual term. That's what kind of why I'm asking.
Through the president, this goes back to 2018 when the county began expanding our existing retiree HRA program. Health Economics Group had been the administrator for the pilot program begun in 2015. And in 2018, when we began offering it on a wide-scale basis, the funds were not in our contract to provide for them to administer this benefit for thousands more retirees than previously.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President. So this is all of it. We're not going to see another one for 19 or for 20 to catch up those years as well. Is this the sum total of what we feel we owe them?
Through the president, yes, this is what we believe is owed.
Thank you. I yield the floor.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next.
Item number 32, referral 21-0074, confirmation of the appointment of the director
I
of
had
the
to
Office
answer
of
that question,
Diversity,
like why
Equity,
we
and
have
Inclusion.
this.
Someone's not muted. Let's say that again, Jay.
Sure. Item number 32, referral 21-0074, confirmation of the appointment of the director of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
Move it, Mr. President.
By Legislator
Second.
Delahanty, seconded by Legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion? Also seconded by Legislator, was that Ernest Flagler Mitchell?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Now we're going to have to go back to number 28 and go into executive session.
Mr. President,
We have a
Mr.
motion.
President, I
Yes.
actually prefer to withdraw the motion at this point.
Okay, then let's do the item number 28.
All right, so we have item 28, referral 21-0070, moved by Legislator Delahanty and was seconded by Legislator Hebert.
Any discussion on item number 28? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any
Opposed? Opposed.
Just Legislator Boyce.
Legislator Boyce opposed. Thank you.
Okay, so is that it? We don't have to go to a roll call, correct? Just Legislator Boyce? Okay, item carries. Are there any other matters to come before the Committee of the Whole?
Legislator Alcoffer.
Legislator Alcoffer.
Yes, sir. I just want to you, Mr. President, to the administration. Is the administration planning any memorial services for the 3 veterans that were recently killed in a helicopter crash?
Okay, through you, Mr. President, the National Guard has a ceremony that they are organizing that will be tomorrow, that the county has been involved in terms of assisting them with the planning when they were looking at possibly doing it at the War Memorial. We played a small role in assisting them, but this is an event that is being planned and organized by the National Guard.
Through you, Mr. President, to administration. Yeah, I realize that, but my question is the administration going to be doing something other than what they're planning? I know the facilities are, they will not allow large congregations of people over there, but I didn't know if we were planning any type of memorial later on this year when the weather is much better and maybe social distancing is allowed in one of our parks or wherever.
Through you, Mr. President, Legislator, that would be something we would definitely be interested in partnering with you on. Right now, we have been playing the supportive role, as I mentioned, with the National Guard, but no, we would be interested in working with you if you'd be interested, again, as the weather gets better and as the COVID restrictions lessen. That's definitely something we would be interested in.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Very good. Any other matters? Committee of the Whole stands adjourned and shall rise and report in the same matter as the legislature's standing committees. The February 25th, 2021 special meeting of the legislature is reconvened. There being no unfinished business, Legislator Brew.
Yes, Mr. President, this meeting stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Monroe County Legislature is scheduled for Tuesday, March 9th, 2021.